I'm 83 years old, and I'm going to tell you something that will make most people uncomfortable. I live completely alone. No spouse, no roommate, no caretaker checking in on me. And I have never, not once in my entire life, been this genuinely happy. Now, before you start feeling sorry for me, before you picture some sad old woman eating soup from a can in a dark kitchen, let me stop you right there. Because what I've discovered in these years of solitude is something most people will never understand until it's too late. My name is Eleanor Price. I was a librarian for 41 years in a small town in Ohio. I was married twice. I raised 3 children. I buried one husband and divorced another. I've had a full life by anyone's measure. But it wasn't until I found myself truly alone at 74 that I discovered who I actually was. And here's the thing. I didn't even know I was lost. Let me take you back to a morning in March 9 years ago. I had just turned 74. My second husband, Richard, had passed away 8 months earlier. Heart attack. Quick. Merciful, they said. My children had all scattered across the country by then. My daughter Susan lives in Seattle. My son Thomas is in Florida. My youngest, Michael, he's in Arizona. They called every Sunday like clockwork, but those calls lasted 12 minutes on average. I counted once. 12 minutes to summarize a week of living. That particular March morning, I woke up at 6:15, just like I always did. But instead of making coffee for 2, instead of turning on the news Richard liked, instead of planning my day around someone else's needs, I just lay there. The house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming from the bedroom. And something strange happened. I didn't feel sad. I felt curious. I thought, Eleanor, what do you actually want to do today? Not what should you do. Not what does someone need you to do. What do you want? I couldn't answer. I had no idea. At 74 years old, I had spent so much of my life being someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's coworker, that I had never asked myself that simple question. And that silence, that not knowing, it terrified me at first. But it also cracked something open. The first secret I'll share with you is this. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. I spent 30 years of my first marriage feeling desperately lonely, while lying next to another human being every single night. My first husband, Gerald, was a good man in the ways that mattered to the outside world. He worked hard. He didn't drink. He never raised his voice. But he was absent in the ways that matter to a soul. We could sit at the dinner table for an hour and exchange maybe 20 words, all of them about the pot roast or the electric bill. I would look at him sometimes and think, do you even see me? Do you know what I'm thinking? Do you care? That's loneliness. That's the kind that hollows you out from the inside, while everyone around you thinks you have a perfectly nice life. Solitude is different. Solitude is chosen. Solitude is when you sit with yourself and realize that your own company is not a punishment. It's a gift. Now, I didn't learn this overnight. The first year after Richard died, I made every mistake you can imagine. I said yes to every invitation because I was afraid of empty evenings. I let my children convince me to try one of those senior living communities. I lasted 3 months. 3 months of forced activities and communal dining and well-meaning neighbors who wanted to know my business. I felt more alone there than I ever did in my own house. Because here's what nobody tells you about those places. You're surrounded by people, but you're still alone. You're just alone with witnesses. So I moved back home, and I started to learn. The second secret is this. You have to become your own best friend. I mean this literally. I talk to myself out loud. I say, "Good morning, Eleanor," when I wake up. I ask myself, what sounds good for breakfast? I comment on the weather when I look out the window. Some people would call that crazy. I call it companionship. I have spent 83 years with this woman, with this mind, with this body. It would be foolish not to have a relationship with her by now. I learned to take myself on dates. Every Thursday, I go to the little Italian restaurant on Oak Street. I sit at the same table by the window. I order the chicken piccata and a glass of white wine. I bring a book, but sometimes I just watch the people walking by. The waitress knows my name now. She saves my table. Is that sad? I don't think so. I think it's one of the most romantic relationships I've ever had, because it's with myself. The third secret, and pay close attention to this one, because it goes against everything you've been taught. You have to stop waiting to be chosen. My whole life I waited. I waited for Gerald to notice me. I waited for Richard to plan something special. I waited for my children to call more often. I waited for happiness to arrive at my door like a package I'd ordered and forgotten about. At 83, I stopped waiting. I choose myself now, every single day. I choose what I eat, what I watch, what I read, where I go, who I talk to. That might sound basic to you, but for someone who spent 60 years considering everyone else's preferences first, it's revolutionary. Here's the fourth secret, and this one took me the longest to learn. You have to make peace with your own mortality. I know I don't have decades left. I might not have years. Some mornings I wake up with new aches in places I didn't know could ache. But instead of fearing death, I've learned to let it teach me. Every sunset I watch from my back porch feels like a private gift, because I know there's a finite number of them. Every book I finish feels like a small victory. Every conversation with a stranger at the grocery store feels meaningful, because I know that human connection is precious and rare. When you stop pretending you'll live forever, you start living like your time matters, because it does. Let me tell you about last Tuesday. Nothing special happened. I woke up at 6:30. I made coffee exactly how I like it, strong with a little cream. I sat on my porch and watched the birds at the feeder. I did the crossword puzzle. I called my friend Marion and we talked for 45 minutes about nothing important. I made a sandwich for lunch. I took a nap. I read 3 chapters of a novel. I cooked pasta for dinner and ate it while watching an old movie. I went to bed at 9, feeling completely content. If you had told me at 40 that this would be the shape of happiness, I would have laughed at you. Where's the excitement? Where's the accomplishment? Where's the meaning? But here's what I know now. Meaning isn't in the big moments. It's in the ordinary ones, when you're finally paying attention. The 5th secret is about letting go. I've let go of so much. I let go of the idea that my children's lives should look a certain way. I let go of old grudges that I'd carried for decades. I let go of the guilt I felt for my failed first marriage. I let go of clothes that don't fit, books I'll never reread, furniture I kept because it belonged to someone who died. Every item I released made my house lighter, and somehow made me lighter too. You can't hold on to everything and also have your hands free for what comes next. The hardest thing I had to let go of was the belief that being alone meant I had failed somehow. Society tells us, especially women, that we are only complete when we're connected to others. Wife, mother, grandmother, caretaker. What happens when all those roles fade or disappear? Are we nothing? I'm here to tell you that's a lie. I am something. I am Eleanor. I am enough. I have always been enough. I just didn't know it. Here's my final secret, the most important one. Happiness in solitude requires one thing above all else. You have to genuinely like who you are. Not who you were, not who you wish you'd become. Who you are, right now, today, with all your wrinkles and regrets and strange little habits that only you know about. I like Eleanor. I like that she reads poetry before bed. I like that she hums while she cooks. I like that she still gets excited about the first snow of winter, even after 83 years of seeing it. I like her enough to spend every day with her, and that's more than I could say for most of my life. Now, I'm not telling you to push people away. I'm not saying relationships don't matter. They do. My children, my grandchildren, my friends, they are treasures. But they are not responsible for my happiness. I am. And that shift, that single shift in understanding, changed everything. If you're watching this and you're afraid of being alone, I understand. I was too. But maybe, just maybe, the thing you're afraid of is the very thing that will set you free. I live alone at 83, and I have never been happier. Not because I don't have anyone, but because I finally have myself. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me your story in the comments. Are you alone? Are you afraid to be? Have you discovered something about yourself in the quiet? I read every single one. At my age, new voices are precious things, and yours matters to me. And if this resonated with you, if something I said made you pause and think, subscribe. Not for me, I won't be here forever. Do it for the person you'll be in 10 years, in 20 years. Let these words find you again when you need them most. If you know someone who's struggling with being alone, someone who thinks solitude is a sentence rather than a gift, share this with them. Sometimes we need permission to be at peace with ourselves, and maybe you can give them that today. The house is quiet now. The evening light is coming through my window, and I am content. That's not a small thing. That's everything.